Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Let's start with residents near the Taal Volcano Island rather feeling unsafe in evacuation centers due to COVID-19.
Affected local government units are now appealing to the national government for more funds to sustain their evacuation efforts. Our correspondent Romel Lopez joins us live from Talisay, Batangas to give us some updates. Romel, how are the evacuees holding up?
Yes, Robbie and Gretchen, it's a double whammy for them, the Taal volcano unrest, and of course the risk of catching COVID-19. There are now makeshift isolation facilities in the evacuation centers just in case worse things happen. The local government admitted that it is they only have limited resources, and there were caught off guard by Taal volcano's recent activity.
Residents in Agoncillo and Laurel in Batangas evacuated Thursday evening. As they ran for their safety, some failed to observe physical distancing.
Lumikas kami dahil ng bulkan. Hindi namin alam, sir eh. Hindi ko nga nasaduhan namin bahay.
Authorities said a total of 1,139 people were moved out from Laurel. But upon reaching the evacuation centers, residents are now faced with the problem of overcrowding and possible COVID-19 transmission.
Medyo medyo kinakabahan din baka kasi magkaroon ng may COVID, di hawa-hawa na kami lahat.
The local government of Laurel admits that despite their contingency plans, they were caught off guard by the Taal's eruption yesterday. 9 schools were also open to accommodate evacuees. The Social Welfare Department also set up tents to give additional temporary shelter. Non-evacuees are barred from entering to avoid possible transmission. Mayor Joan Amo of Laurel says the town had tallied a little over 180 COVID-19 cases since March last year, 3 of which are active. But the mayor noted that none of the active cases were from the areas asked to evacuate. Isolation facilities were also placed in the centers for possible COVID-19 cases.
Po lahat ng evacuation center natin, nilagyan natin ng isolation facilities. Para po kung sakaling meron pong lagnatin o kung ano man, madali natin silang maihiwalay.
Amo also said that they can only sustain the current evacuation setup for a week and will need the help of the national government if the Taal's unrest continues. Residents were given a window of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. to tend to their livestock and other livelihoods. The DSWD is also planning to proposition 10,000 food packs in the area and augment the funds of the LGUs affected.
Robbie and Gretchen, volcanologists are on the watch for the continuous upwelling of Taal volcano's main crater. According to PHIVOLCS data, its recent sulfur dioxide emission already has a daily average of more than 13,000 tons. As for the other towns here in Batangas, they are now on standby if they have to evacuate as well. But like Laurel and Agoncillo, they are already resigned to the fact that the process would be tedious. Robbie and Gretchen.
Maraming salamat, Romel Lopez. Now, evacuation efforts are underway for residents living near the Taal volcano after its eruption on Thursday. We have NDRRMC spokesman Mark Timbal joining us live for the latest. Good evening, Mr. Timbal.
Sir Robbie, magandang gabi po. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, sir, in terms of evacuation and capacities, especially at the LGUs around the island, what has changed? What is different this year compared to last year?
Yes, sir. So far po, compared to last year, wala na po tayong pinoproblema when it comes to the volcano island since it's already emptied of people. And on the part of the communities naman po, naging maagap yung ating evacuation procedures doon sa high-risk communities sa Laurel and Agoncillo. Initially, these are 5 barangays. And so far, we have received the evacuation count of 1,495 persons staying in 12 evacuation centers. The difference right now is we're also minding the COVID-19 concern, and we are insisting and reminding our local government units to ensure that the minimum health standards are followed in every step of the way, from getting our mga kababayan from their houses to transporting them and then to the evacuation centers. These procedures for protection against COVID-19 must be implemented at all phases.
Yun actually po yung tanong ko. Given everything, given capacity and what even PHIVOLCS is saying, this should be more manageable. Which is a bigger concern right now? The actual evacuation effort or COVID-19 in the evacuation centers?
These are all being considered, Sir Robbie. Kaya nga po kanina doon sa ating meeting sa NDRMC, we have instructed our different counterparts, especially the Philippine National Police and the local government units, para siguraduhin po that the implementation of the standards would be done along with the additional support that we're sending to these local government units. Para po masigurado po kasi natin na hindi siksikan, tama po yung inulat kanina that additional tents are being sent to Laurel, Batangas and Agoncillo so that we can have at least one family per tent, one family per room arrangement. And then our health officers, assisted by DOH, are also conducting the health monitoring and examination of the evacuees in the evacuation centers. We're also eyeing the transfer of other evacuees from one evacuation center to another to decongest it. And this is already, I think, being done by the local government units headed by the Provincial Disaster Management Office of Batangas. So, unti-unti po na-decongest, lumuluwag na po yung ating mga evacuation center, and this will be done over the weekend going to Monday. We are also looking into the deployment of the vaccination rollout in the evacuation centers, and this is already being prepared by our counterparts in DOH to the support of other agencies and the local government units. This will be a form of support and assurance na makakaiwas din po sa sakit itong ating mga kababayan sa evacuation centers.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Timbal, NDRRMC spokesperson, Mark Timbal. Now, since yesterday, more than 1,000 residents in Batangas have been affected by Taal Volcano's phreatomagmatic eruptions. Tonight's big number is 1,495. That's the number of individuals evacuated to at least 12 sites in Batangas. This is equivalent to more than 370 families. The NDRRMC says affected residents may only return to their homes once PHIVOLCS downgrades Taal Volcano's alert level.
These are the other big stories tonight. Despite not being directly affected by Taal Volcano's magmatic activity, tourism businesses in Tagaytay are already feeling the pinch as tourists cancel their trips. Despite another counterpunch from the president, Senator Manny Pacquiao says is still not discounting a possible presidential bid. And it's final, Gilas Pilipinas is out of Olympic contention after a massive loss against Dominican Republic. These big stories after the break.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. Tourists are now hesitant to visit Tagaytay after the Taal volcano was placed under Alert Level 3, but local officials assure the public it is still safe in the city. Shiloh Francisco with this story.
Only a few tourists arrive at the Taal Vista Hotel in Tagaytay during its check-in hours on Friday. After Alert Level 3 was raised over in Taal Volcano, close to 100 tourists already canceled their bookings starting Thursday until Tuesday next week.
The guests are afraid to come to Tagaytay kahapon. Nung lumabas yung Alert Level 3, Even though ang Tagaytay are not affected with that level 3, but yung malabas kasi sa iba sa social media. So that's really concerning on our business. We're trying to convince guests, although may mga cancellation, may mga nag-book pa rin naman.
Other tourist destinations were also affected. Here in Picnic Grove, around 100 tourists visit every Friday. But because of the alert level 3 in Taal Volcano, along with the heavy rains, barely any tourists are arriving here. Restaurants in Tagaytay were also affected by Taal's unrest. Businesses fear this will continue in the coming weeks.
Marami kasing umaasa na empleyado ko, lalo pamilyado. So once kasi na mag-extend pa to, medyo nadala na sila before Kasi yung nangyari nga sa kanila, nasara din yung business namin, temporary. So nawalan sila ng trabaho, hindi nila alam kasi yung gagawin nila that time.
Some tourists, however, still push through with their trip to Tagaytay. Some chose to stay for a short period of time, while others just passed by.
Curious din tayo pero kailangan din natin pribadong pag-iingat talaga. Siyempre meron din naman, natatakot din naman tayo kaya minomonitor natin maigi para kung halimbawa may eruption, makakalis din tayo kagad.
Para makita lang magandang view kasi taga Manila kami. Para...
Hindi ba kayo natakot?
Hindi naman po. Kasi siguro po kung ganun, hindi na sila nagpapasok.
The local government of Tagaytay assured the public it is still safe to visit the city.
Hindi namin dinidiscourage yung ating mga turista. Pwede pa rin silang pumasyal. Maganda yung klima ho dito. Sariwa pa rin yung hangin kasi nga hindi naman dito papunta yung direction ng hangin na lang gagaling sa dagat.
However, the tourism department discouraged non-essential travel in the towns of Agoncillo and Laurel in Batangas until PHIVOLCS declares it safe to visit these areas. Shaila Francisco, WR1 News.
Many residents in Batangas are now seeking shelter in evacuation sites, but some local fishermen decided to stay put for the sake of their livelihood. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us a front seat to the story.
Though many affected residents are now in evacuation sites, Jeremy De Leon, a fisherman in Barangay Buso-Buso, refused to leave his livelihood behind.
Kaya mahirap dahil may ganito ako. May trabaho akong ganito bago sa ititingka doon.
Another resident decided to stay put until her family is complete.
Yung asawa ko po kasi nasa laot pa. Alam naman ho kung may ililikas yung asawa ko nasa laot.
Families residing in barangays within the 7-kilometer danger zone from Taal were evacuated, including over 1,000 residents from the towns of Laurel and Agoncillo. Sulfur dioxide emitted by the Taal volcano caused residents to experience difficulty in breathing, fevers, and nausea. But for local fishermen, it's just another day in the lake.
So in total, these fishermen were able to catch 29 kilos worth of fish, and they would earn around 500 to 1,000 after selling it because some of the fishes still got rejected. Now this is the exact reason why these residents chose to stay, because they still have to make a living even with the threat of the volcanic eruption. They still have to make a living.
With volcanic activity still relatively tamed compared to last year's eruption, the local government is finding it hard to convince residents to evacuate.
Yung lindol kasi ngayon is parang uugalan, tapos wala na. So kaya yung mga tao kampante na magstay. Pero kung ito ay katulad last year, malamang wala na rin kami dito.
Natakot din naman ho, pero kailangan mo din ho talagang maglakas ng loob dahil dito din ho yung hanap buhay namin
Residents who fear another major eruption meanwhile began stockpiling food items and N95 masks, causing supplies to run low. But authorities say evacuation centers have enough food supply to cater to evacuees. I'm Jacob Lazaro and we are One News.
People living near Taal volcano have been warned about the unhealthy air quality in the area. The volcano has been belching high levels of sulfur dioxide for several days, averaging 13,000 tons on Thursday. DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere warns that exposure to sulfur dioxide can cause skin and eye irritation and discomfort in breathing. With this, Vergere reminds the public to be vigilant of possible health risks and to continue wearing their face masks.
Pinapaalalahanan po ng Kagawaran ng Kalusugan ang lahat ng nakatira sa malapit sa bulkan o sa mga lugar na maaring maapektuhan ng mga aktibidades ng bulkan na mag-ingat at manatiling nakaantabay para sa anumang magiging abiso ng PhilVox o ng inyong local government unit.
Time for next week's look at some of today's big stories. Vice President Leni Robredo has asked the Presidential Electoral Tribunal to junk Bongbong Marcos's appeal on the dismissal of his poll protests. Through her lawyers, Robredo said Marcos's arguments were a mere rehash. Robredo told the late dictator's son to accept with grace the bitter pill that she won not just once, but thrice. The executive department should stop reacting on unverified social media posts. That's what Senator Manny Pacquiao said. And that's after Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana criticized Pacquiao for supposedly claiming that the Philippine Navy's Frigate project was a corrupt deal. Apparently, Lorenzana referred to a meme which showed Pacquiao's photo and a list of supposedly corrupt agencies. And over 33 million Filipinos have registered for vaccination against COVID-19, according to the Interior Department. The DILG praised local government units for their creative ways in persuading constituents to sign up. It also took note of the continuous decrease in vaccine hesitancy as LGUs innovate and outperform each other in their respective inoculation drives. And speaking of vaccination, the group of companies under Manny V. Pangilinan kicked off its vaccine rollout today with the goal of inoculating all 60,000 workers as soon as possible. Mobile journalist Pam Vasquez gives us a front seat to the story.
With the slogan, "We got your vac," the MVP Group has kicked off its vaccination drive for 60,000 employees. The first tranche of the company procured Moderna vaccines were administered to around 600 workers at the Meralco compound in Pasig today.
Today is a momentous day for all of us in the MVP Group, especially also for Meralco. We have a vaccination site that has the capacity to vaccinate 1,000 persons per day, which is, I believe, the largest amongst the MVP vaccination centers.
The company prioritized workers on the front lines, like Nilo Cortez, who has been with Meralco for almost 3 decades.
I'm glad na napunaan ako. Very grateful and very proud.
Most of the group's businesses, in fact, fall under essential services, from electricity and telco to tollways and media. Other vaccine hubs that will be activated next week include PLDT Santa Ana in Manila, Smart Tower in Makati, Maynilad Balara in Quezon City, and NLEX Santa Rita in Bulacan. Each pilot site is expected to complete 700 to more than 1,300 jobs per day. Chair Manny Pangilinan says vaccinating staff doing essential work will be key to helping the country emerge from the crisis.
This vaccination effort is extremely important to get us back to, a big step closer to the normalcy that we all desire.
Apart from Moderna, the group has also procured AstraZeneca for more than 300,000 staff, their dependents, as well as other household members. Pangilinan has also said before that the group would be interested in investing in local vaccine production facilities. I'm Pamela Vasquez, and we are One News.
Time for another quick break. When we return. After getting another jab from the president, Senator Manny Pacquiao says he's not out to attack the chief executive. He claims he just wants to help in the anti-corruption drive. And Gilas Pilipinas bows out of the FIBA Olympic qualifying tournament after a 27-point loss against Dominican Republic. The details after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. After receiving another mouthful from President Duterte, Senator Manny Pacquiao says he only wants to help in government's anti-corruption drive. Maricel Halili with this report.
To maintain the equilibrium sa lahat, consider me a candidate for the vice presidency at this time.
President Duterte has announced he should be considered a possible candidate for vice president in 2022. Duterte admits that he was using talks of his possible candidacy as political leverage.
Posturing yan, political posturing, so that they would not treat you badly. Kasi paalis na ako eh.
But Duterte says that his decision could still change after he had promised to support late Congressman Martin Romualdez on his possible vice presidential bid.
So if Romualdez would hang on to that commitment, sabi ko nga, if there is space lang, kung wala,
Duterte meanwhile took another job at Senator Manny Pacquiao. The senator accepted Duterte's challenge and named the health department as one of the agencies allegedly involved in corruption.
do not go anywhere, finish and find out the corruption that you are talking about. Kung mag-report ka lang dalawa isang buwan, then I would say that you are a
Duterte advised his officials to cooperate in any investigation, but believed Pacquiao's action were fueled by his political ambitions.
You know, when you are a champion in boxing, it doesn't mean to say that you are a champion in politics.
Pacquiao, who accepted Duterte's dare, said he was not trying Duterte when he mentioned these corruption allegations. The senator said he only wanted to help him advance his advocacy.
Naiintindihan ko rin naman dahil baka busy ang Pangulo. Pero matagal na ako nang naghihingi ng audience sa atin.
Despite the controversy, Pacquiao clarified that he is not closing his door on the presidency. But for now, he will focus first on his training for his upcoming boxing fight in August.
Itong boxing po natin haluan ng politika. Kaya ako nandito, nagpapatuloy na lumalaban dahil masaya ako dahil nagkakaisa ang sabay ng Pilipino pag-amuha namin.
For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
For the big story in sports, Gilas Pilipinas fails to build on the momentum a day after almost shocking world powerhouse Serbia. They absorbed a blowout loss, 94-67, to Dominican Republic in the FIBA Olympic qualifying tournament. Gilas struggled against the physicality and athleticism of Dominican Republic, who played with a sense of urgency right from the get-go. The young squad even held a slim lead after the first half. Dominican Republic, however, went on a momentum-changing 24-6 run in the third quarter to take control of the contest. But despite going 0-2, head coach Tab Baldwin praised his young team, saying the defeats don't take away the progress they've made in the past months.
There's a lot to be proud about. This is a very, very young team. Most people may know this is a team with no professionals in it at this point. And this is a program that we're working on to build for the future.
With the threat of several COVID variants, receiving your vaccine second dose is such an important milestone, so much so that it's akin to a graduation ceremony. On TikTok, user Vanessa Agdon documented her big day held in a mall in Parañaque. Let's see what happened during the commencement exercises of Sinovac Class 2021. Watch this.
The day has finally arrived. All those days of staying indoors has finally paid off. I would like to thank my family and friends for all their support. Congratulations to all graduates. Finally, it's my turn.
Vanessa Agdon.
Time to celebrate.
Magaling! Magaling,
Talaga
magaling,
naman,
ano?
di ba?
Oo.
I-celebrate mo, pangalandakan mo na.
Tama. Ikaw ba nakapag-second dose ka na?
Wala pa, inaantay ko pa nga yung second dose. But I know a lot of people, hindi lang graduation. Araw ng kalayaan
Oh,
ang
diba?
trato nila dyan.
Oo. Ako nakapag-second dose na. Doon na ako nag-post.
No, iba yung pakiramdam,
Oo,
di ba? You
iba
feel
talaga.
more confident going out. At the same time, we still have to be responsible. A reminder to everyone, kahit na nabakunahan kayo, pwede ka pa rin magka-COVID and you can still bring COVID to your loved ones. So, kailangan safety pa rin.
Ako naman, inaantay ko. Kanina kasi nag-host ako ng vaccination drive natin. Inaantay ko yung data sa booster shot. Sigurista kasi ako eh. So, lahat ng bakuna, kung pwede, kukunin ko na.
Pero speaking of, I mean, hindi lang sa MVP group, a lot of groups have started to come out. Really, we're now seeing yung ambag at saka yung tulong ng private sector dito. Napakalaking bagay na itong mga private rollouts are also starting to gain momentum.
Faster way to achieve herd immunity. Good news for Friday
Every bit
after the
helps.
weekend. Well, that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again Monday at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. We are One News. Have a good evening.
Toby, andyan?
Pero sir, I'm sure i-offer kayo sa sa NTFL CAC ulit. May kaibigan ako sa NTFL CAC eh. Retiree din ng AFP.
Sino?